The pristine expanse of the Cape Horn Biosphere Reserve is facing an encroaching threat, the American mink. The invasive species is currently expanding into habitats where native waterfowl have evolved and thrived without natural predators. The predation of ground nesting birds and their eggs by minks endanger their survival. What conservation strategies should be implemented to safeguard these birds? In the second episode, we learned about the impacts of the American mink on native waterfowl populations and their ducklings. Globally, invasive species are one of the top 5 causes for biodiversity loss around the world. Once a non-native invasive species becomes established, it can be really hard to control and eradicate the population, especially on islands. In this third and final episode, we'll hear from experts working in the Cape Horn Biosphere Reserve about the opportunities, challenges and strategies to protecting the native waterfowl populations against the invasive American mink. The protection of vital waterfowl habitats through fences, mink trapping and limiting human disturbance is crucial. Efforts should target habitats of importance to the waterfowl, including areas with rocky coasts, intertidal zones and short grasses. Insights from researchers underscore the importance of concentrating habitat protection efforts on islets, also known as small islands, where minks are present and conservation measures are currently absent.
So I would say it is about focusing on what kind of protection do we want to bring to vulnerable bird species. It won't be possible, I think, to eradicate mink because of logistics. The island is really big and mink can invade from other parts of this archipelagic region. So we should focus on, for example, islets, which is what we found recently. There are a lot of, almost a double of nests found on little islets that are also on the other side of the Beagle Channel, like kind of refugees for water birds. But we also found mink evidence on those islets. So, but still it will be difficult for mink to cross the sea because it's cold water and they can't do so in winter probably, or depending on the distance. So there are certain areas where you should focus on, where you have vulnerable bird species and maybe during the breeding season, so you guarantee the reproduction of those bird species.
Integrating research into decision-making is crucial to achieving effective outcomes. Valuable research from the long-term census studies conducted by experts from the Cape Horn International Centre that focuses on mink and waterfowl presence and habitat preferences should be utilised to inform the actions of local government and stakeholders.
Otro resultado fue respecto a, nosotros generamos esta herramienta que es un mapa, un mapa de una imagen satelital con las probabilidades de nidificación de estas dos aves. Entonces, en este mapa hay un píxel, donde en este píxel sale qué tan probable es que la ave nidifica acá. Entonces, nuestra idea es que este mapa después se entregue a los tomadores de decisiones, o al SAC, o a distintas organizaciones que lo necesiten, de tal manera de que se controle al bisón más en esos lugares donde las aves nidifican más.
Mink traps are devices designed to capture and contain minks. The utilisation of trapping has been extensive around the world, serving both as a means of mink population control and as a tool for studying the species. This method can influence the density and distribution of minks and even allow the restoration of native species. Presently, the local government are deploying mink traps, yet further investigation is needed to understand the impacts on mink and waterfowl.
There are probably different kinds of traps. I got to know lethal traps, conifer traps, You should know from other studies that are studying kind of systematically what kind of trapping is most effective for getting the population numbers smaller. You should consider, for example, in what kind of season you go out trapping. If you focus on female or male mink, for example, what kind of attractants you use, and also you have to care that you won't get too many other animals in the traps.
There could be alternative approaches to monitoring minks and deterring them from areas that need protecting, including the utilisation of other species. This method holds promise for future exploration and implementation.
I got to know some farmers that actually had some dogs that were kind of trained to to chase mink, and they were sometimes successful. Not all the time, I think, because mink always will escape through rocky outcrop in the coast, and then that would be difficult also for dogs to follow them. Especially if they're in the water, then they will escape. But yeah, and for conservation there are the dogs, detection dogs, that I also sometimes hope to be able to study, like bring detection dogs on, for example, the islands of this archipelago, because it's so difficult to get there. So detection dogs, if you present them the smell of mink, are so quick, much quicker than one looking for scats, for example. So that might be a method to help monitoring mink, definitely. Yeah.
The demanding nature of current census methods, primarily conducted by researchers, could be alleviated by tapping into citizen science. Engaging with the public can yield quicker insights and more extensive data, enhancing our understanding of the impacts of invasive species on waterfowl and informing conservation strategies. This collaboration not only facilitates early mink detection and prompts responses, but also raises awareness about the impacts of invasive species within the community.
I always think it's important to integrate the communities into science, and there's a lot of citizen science ongoing, and people are all the community, like the scientific community, is getting aware that it's so important. As a potential, particularly in these areas where logistics are so hard and it's so expensive to do investigation. So I think it and through the new apps also we have so it's getting more and more easier to just when you're on a path or a little excursion as someone from the community, and then you just register the birds you saw. And there's also methods of kind of testing if the birds, like through the photos, if the birds are the ones they are mentioned. So I think that is a very good way. And with regard to mink, I don't know, maybe it's a bit it would need some capacitation to monitor mink through the community. But I think it's not impossible, but maybe not as easy as birds. But here on Navarino Island, it is very easy because the mink is the only mustelid. So you can you just have to learn to recognize the scats and the footprints, but it's nothing very difficult, I would say. And I also think that in general the community should be more integrated into decisions on invasive predator control, because it can't be that only biologists or conservationists decide on the fate of invasive predators, although they are probably many people have the same opinion about trying to control them, but not all maybe. So it's kind of a decision that should be taken by society, and I think there's a lot of potential still to develop these kind of integration.
The invasive mink poses a significant threat to waterfowl birds in the Cape Horn region, where their presence is vital for seed dispersal, nutrient cycling, and ecosystem functioning. To safeguard the species, it is crucial to prioritise collaborative research with the community and implement effective conservation strategies. Together, let's protect the native waterfowl birds of the Cape Horn Biosphere Reserve, for their conservation is a responsibility that we all share. Through collective efforts, there is a hope for a brighter future for these birds and the entire ecosystem.